You're watching FARC Racing on OEN. It's a dangerous world out there. Stay inside with us and you just might live to see another day. Today we will be catching up on all the happenings of the FARC DMR Chassis Regional Cup, starting with the East Series at the Montgomery Speedway in Alabama. Charles Gilbert takes the pole over Andy Pearson, the former four-time FARC Elite Series champion, who brings his iconic number 2 Smash Beer car to this series. Gilbert led the first 15 laps of this 100-lap race, but Andy Pearson would get a run off of turn 4 and take the lead for himself. However, he encounters the lap car of Eric Tackett, car 71, and Gilbert gets back around him. Frank Azaretto, car 46, moves into second place, and then Azaretto would take over the lead, coming back to a caution flag on lap 30. After the restart, Charles Gilbert fell back to third, and now Matt Pearson, the Texas World winner and one of the sons of Andy Pearson, looks to challenge Gilbert for that position. Erica Tackett now holding up Kyle Pearson, the second Pearson brother. She gets dumped into the wall by the 22 car and comes to a rest in turn 3. Caution flag out once again. Rick Lewis brings out another caution with a spectacular wreck. Car 51 propped up on top of the pit wall. Fortunately, he would be okay, and then Charles Gilbert gets turned by Alex Dunkerley, car number 09. Gilbert has been dropping through the field like a stone, and this just makes things worse. In the meantime, Frank Azaretto blows up from the lead of the race. Azaretto not immune from the typical FAC Motorsports luck. Carl Thompson in the Griesberger 90 car works his way up to the lead, with Matt and Andy Pearson giving chase. Coming to 15 laps to go now. However, AJ Reed and Neil Miller get together in turn 2. That brings out another caution flag, and this would set up a one-lap shootout. Carl Thompson leading over Matt Pearson. Both of these guys get a good jump at the start. Matt Pearson looking for 2 in a row. Carl Thompson trying to hold him off. Thompson running a little bit wide in turns 1 and 2, but Pearson not able to get the run on him, although he is right on that 90s bumper. Thompson running wide again in the final 2 corners. Probably feeling the pressure, but it's not going to be enough for Pearson. Carl Thompson takes the win. And the next week, we move on to Riverside Park in Massachusetts. Charles Gilbert makes it 2 in a row. Alex Dunkerley on the outside pole. Gilbert pulls away, and Eric Tackett is going to be a deciding factor for the battle for the lead once again, this time to Matt Pearson's benefit. Pearson takes over the lead, but not for long, as Charles Gilbert forces his way through the middle and takes the lead back. Gilbert making a statement, he will not be pushed around today. Kyle Pearson has a problem, but misses the pit lane and spins back up onto the track. Frank Azaretto, car 46 collected. 22 sitting in the middle of the racing line. He gets hit by several cars. His brother, Matt, Alex Dunkerley, Greg Gray in the 9, the teammate to Carl Thompson. Speaking of Carl Thompson, he sneaks around Charles Gilbert to take over the race lead. Thompson, closing in on the halfway point, is looking for 2 in a row. Charles Gilbert stuck in a 3-wide battle with Matt Pearson and Neil Miller. Gilbert up the wall now after contact with the 12. Looks like it's going to be more of the same for Charles Gilbert after all, as Neil Miller is now coming after Charles Gilbert for the lead. The battle between the 2 number 90 cars. Miller takes the lead, but now he's got to figure out how to get around the lapped car of Frank Azaretto. And I see Tristan Bain back there in 3rd place, looking to challenge Carl Thompson for 2nd, as Neil Miller pulls away and takes the win here at Riverside Park. And now looking at the point standings after 3 rounds, Matt Pearson leads by 13 points over Neil Miller, Charles Gilbert, and Carl Thompson, 3rd and 4th. 5th is Tristan Bain, Wilson Timothy 6th, Ken Wheeler and Kay for Glanville tied for 7th, Rebecca Peller in 9th, and Andy Pearson rounds out the top 10. Now let's have a look at the Regional Cup Central Series. Kenny Brillen on pole over John Alexander at the Winchester Speedway in Indiana. Brillen pulls out to the lead. Thomas Tucker, car 55, to 2nd place. But we had a scary crash involving Osvaldo Ramirez, who gets together with John Alexander and goes tumbling down the front stretch and down into turn 1. Mitchell Hill, car 00, also collected. Osvaldo Ramirez comes to a stop on the apron. Ramirez and Alexander would climb out of those cars. Tristan Roberts chases down Kenny Brillen and gets a run on the 20 with a little bit of help from the lapped car of Martin Jackson. Roberts to the lead, but then he shuts the door on Jerry Phillips in the 100. Phillips up the track and right in front of Kyle Pitts in the 30. James West and Bernie Fellows. Also involved, Brandon McLaughlin in the number 02, also collected. This wreck would put Kenny Brillen back in the lead, but Roberts comes after the 20 once again. These two would exchange the lead a few times in the final stages of this race. A very interesting battle between the 89 and the 20. Whenever one of them gets ahead, the other closes up. Neither of them seem to have an advantage. However, lapped cars would be a factor with less than 15 laps to go. Billy Bob Bradburn holding up Brillin, while Roberts gets pushed into the lead by Stanley Parsons, who's 6 laps down. He pitted a while ago, and then when he came out, he was the fastest car on the track. Stanley Parsons, the Texas World winner, giving Tristan Roberts a bit of a hand, but Brillin closes back in once again and takes over the lead, coming to 10 laps to go. But then he comes up on the lapped car of Donnie Olson and puts him into the wall to bring out a late caution. Kenny Brillin running out of patience with these lapped cars, especially with Roberts right on his bumper. But after the restart, Brillin pulls away from Roberts, and he's going to hold off the 89 to claim his first win of the season. We now head over to Terre Haute Action Track, also in Indiana. John Alexander on pole this time, Thomas Tucker second, but here comes Kenny Brillin around the 55 at the start to take that position. Tristan Roberts and Jerry Phillips getting together for the second week in a row. Roberts head-on into the wall. That brings out the caution on lap 33. Roberts climbs out of that car. John Alexander leads the field into the pit lane. Bernie Fellows stays out to take over the lead, but his engine immediately expires. That hands the lead over to Osvaldo Ramirez, who also stayed out, but he gets to reap the benefits of leading a few laps. Jerry Phillips is then turned around by Kenny Brillin, and then he gets hit by the spinning car of Jim Thompson, who had gotten turned by Billy Bob Bradburn in the 5. John Alexander finds himself back in the lead at the halfway point, but then he gets turned into the wall by Thomas Tucker, while Tucker comes after the 51 for the lead. But Alexander refuses to let that slow him down. He says, "Get back here to the 55," and is neck and neck with Tucker coming down the backstretch. Kenny Brillin lurking back in third. Darrell Sullivan in the 79 runs fourth, as John Alexander takes the lead back. However, for the next few laps, it would be these three, Brillin, Tucker, and Alexander, swapping the lead back and forth. Tucker would get the lead under a caution period, but the engine goes on car number 55. Thomas Tucker out of the race. With less than 30 laps to go, James West emerges as a contender in that 69 car, challenging Kenny Brillin for the lead. Osvaldo Ramirez in car 40 right in front of these guys, pitted a while ago, and is trying to stay on the lead lap, but Brillin puts John Alexander into the wall. That second impact with the inside wall much harder than the first, and John Alexander would be forced to drop out. Kenny Brillin now comes after James West with 5 laps to go. A little bit of contact between the 20 and the 69, but Kenny Brillin racing James West much cleaner than he did with John Alexander, and Kenny Brillin makes it 2 in a row here on the dirt at Terre Haute. Now let's look at the point standings after 3 rounds. Kenny Brillin, with his 2 wins, leads by 31 points over Stanley Parsons, the other winner of the Central Division this season. Teammates James West and Tristan Roberts 3rd and 4th. Paco Martinez and Jerry Phillips tied for 7th. And Bernie Fellows rounds out the top 10. And now let's take a look at the West Series. At Colorado National Speedway, Justin Slade, car 98, on pole over Brenda Riggs in car 67. Mike Malone in car 5, running in 3rd place, and tries to make a move on Riggs for 2nd. But Brenda Riggs would slip back, and towards the halfway point, she gets into the back of Ricky Sellers in the 19S. Benji Flynn in that equally gaudy 717, nowhere to go but into the side of Sellers. Pit stops under caution here on lap number 50, and Justin Slade escapes with the lead, but he's got to deal with traffic from all directions. Look at Roy Cook in the 22 on the bottom. Cook with a wild move, one of the many cars trying to get his laps back at this point in the race. Jeff Little, car 61, takes advantage of this lap traffic and gets in front of Justin Slade to take over the lead. Slade, getting increasingly frustrated with lap cars, turns Luther Austin in the 66, but Austin comes flying back up, puts Slade into the wall, as well as Mike Malone in the 5. Justin Slade's day not going very well after he led most of the race. And here we have Tanner Smith in the 14, smashing into the pit wall in turn 2 after running wide for some reason. But Jeff Little would lead the rest of the way and take the win here at Colorado National. And the next week, the field will be off to Albuquerque Speed Bowl. Justin Slade on pole once again, Sarah Carlisle in the 53 on his outside, but here comes Mark Thompson in the 59, trying to take that position away. Tanner Smith and Ricky Sellers get together off in turn 4, then Sellers smashes into the gate on the backstretch and ends up on his roof on the apron. Sellers climbs out of that car, though. Most of the leaders pitted. Justin Slade gets out first. However, a few others stayed out. Connor Peterson, car 83, leads on the restart. Theo Smith in the 35, right behind him. However, Brenda Riggs would come charging through the field and challenge Peterson for the lead. Riggs has one of the fastest cars on the track right now, and so she makes mincemeat of the 83. Peterson then gets turned by Sarah Carlisle. Up into the turn 3 wall he goes, and then Mark Thompson in the 59 has nowhere to go. Justin Slade narrowly avoided that, and he leads on the restart. Sarah Carlisle, car 53, challenging him though, although they've got a couple lap cars in front of them. Benji Flynn, Aaron Cruz, and Roy Cook all get together off of turn 4. Roy Cook propped up on top of the wall, but Theo Smith clobbers the 22 and gets him down. Brenda Riggs now finds herself in the lead. Joshua Pacer, car 88, in second place. 35 laps to go now, but we got more trouble. Benji Flynn turns Tanner Smith. The 14 comes flying back up into the 48 of Alex Santos. Santos goes into the wall, and that's a lot of front-end damage on that 48 car. Sarah Carlisle hard into the wall with Roy Cook and Mike Malone coming back to the caution. Alex Santos gets caught up in the second wreck. Brenda Riggs continuing to lead, and she's pulling away from the field now, and here she comes, lapping the second-place car of Joshua Pacer. That's how fast Brenda Riggs has been today. And Riggs, with absolutely no competition, takes the checkered flag a full lap ahead of the rest of the field. And it will be Justin Slade leading the standings by 40 points over Jeff Little. Dan Kelly 3rd, Mike Malone 4th, Charles Martin 5th, Brenda Riggs 6th, Alex Santos 7th, Kerry Rodriguez 8th, Joshua Pacer 9th, and Roy Cook rounds out the top 10.